Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the At Home with Allison show on WQEE 99.1 FM. This is episode 5, and we have an awesome panel here for you guys today. We have Eric Egglested with Homescan Inspections and Dave Gasser with Roofing Done Right. Home inspections are so important, and I really can't wait to go into all the details with you so you can hear from these guys, their experience, and everything that they have to offer. I do want to tell you this show airs every single Monday morning at 10 a.m. on WQEE 99.1 FM, local to Coweta County. We also have this streaming on YouTube. We have it on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcast, Spotify, tune in, lots of places. So there should be plenty of places for you guys to get this information at any time. But I'm so excited to have you guys here. I have worked with Eric and Dave quite a few times now with home inspections, roofing inspections, and things like that. And they actually work together a lot. So I thought that this was a great way to bring these people on. So feel free, if you're on our Facebook Live, to ask questions. These guys are awesome, and we're going to get into all the nitty-gritty stuff. So let's start with you, Eric. We've known each other for probably about, let's see, I've been in the business about 2.5 years now. You were Ashley's preferred inspector when I started working with her, and you've just done an incredible job for us. You're the best, and I always tell people that. So
I appreciate that.
Tell us about you. Where are you from?
So I originally grew up in Washington State.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
So
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I'm pretty far from home. So.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but I joined the military, and so I traveled. I did 24 years in the active duty Army.
Wow.
And the funny thing is, I actually retired in Washington State and was going to become a law enforcement officer at State Patrol. And my wife, who also retired from the military, said, "Hey, I want to move to Peachtree City, Georgia."
Oh.
My sister lives here, and they have twin boys. They were born 2 days after my daughter, so she loved the school systems and just the atmosphere of this whole area around here. And I said, all right, let's do it, we're for an adventure. So here we are. We're in Georgia now. So
yeah, that's awesome. What about you, Dave? Where are you from?
So I'm originally from Ohio.
Okay.
Back in 2008.
North.
Yeah, the north. Yep. Back in 2018, my wife and I, our 5 kids, packed up and moved here with our church.
Okay. What church are you guys with?
It's the Christian Church in Peachtree City.
Okay.
Yep. Up on Robinson Road.
Nice. So what got you into the business, Eric? What made you decide that home inspections was for you?
That's a good question. So I, when I moved here, my sister had a realtor, a Keller Williams Realtor as well, and so I obviously just used her, and we began to look at homes, and we get to know each other. And as you all know, you don't always just look at one home; you look at several.
Right.
And this is back in 2015, before COVID and all that stuff. So she was asking me, questions and stuff, and I told her I wanted to be in law enforcement when I moved here. Even I thought I was going to go to State Patrol or local police department. And she goes, "Eric, can I make a suggestion to you?" And I said, "Yeah, of course." And she said, "You're so detailed when you're looking at homes, and you're picking things out that I didn't see and all that stuff. I know a good company that is always hiring military guys for home inspections." So she recommended me to start with a home inspection company, and so I did a ride along with them and enjoyed it. And I get to meet people and stuff, and I call it windshield time. My office is different every day, so I enjoyed it. So I did that for a couple years, and then about 4 years ago, I started my own company. So that's how I got into the business. So. Yeah.
Do you think that your prior military experience plays a big part in how meticulous you are?
Yeah, very detailed. Situational awareness is what we call it in the military, but it's kind of like situational awareness in a house. It's detail oriented. And then customer service is a big thing for me too, because I'm also a buyer of a house, and I need contractors to come to my house, and I noticed the customer service had gone down a little bit, so that's why I try to bring into the home inspection, besides the detailed inspection, is just being customer based and real thorough with people. So
that's something I always tell people about you too, is he's going to be very thorough, he's going to be very meticulous. From that past military experience, it makes you that way. So what about you, Dave? How did you get in with the roofing?
Yeah, so this business kind of found me.
Okay.
We moved down, like I said, in 2018. I used to be a dairy farmer, so used to a lot of hard work. I love to work outside. Also love to have my own schedule. You know, if I needed to be off, I could be off, things like that. So we moved here. My wife had a job as a Spanish teacher. I didn't have a job, so I thought I would be a handyman. Had a lot of experience doing different things, so I'm like, I'll start being a handyman. But in doing that, I met the owner of this company, and the rest is kind of history.
Yeah, well, speaking of, somebody just said, hey, we know that guy on the right from Roofed and Done Right.
Okay.
So they're on here. We appreciate you guys tuning in and supporting Dave. What is something from your previous experience, Dave, as like a farmer? Is there anything that you kind of carried from what you previously did into what you're doing now?
Just the aspect that roofing's hard work. It's sometimes early mornings, things like that that I was able to bring with me.
Yeah.
Just also being on the dairy farm, working with other people. Honesty was a big thing that I could bring with me as well.
Yeah, honesty is a huge part. I think that I know that people rely on you guys so heavily when they're moving into a new home or moving in they're going through this new experience that they've never been through. Like we've mentioned a few times on the show, 37% of people that buy homes each year are first-time home buyers. And then people that have bought homes, 70% of them regret something along the way, whether it was, of course, happenstance. Things happen in real estate all the time, but sometimes they don't have someone that's a very thorough inspector, or they find roofing damage after the fact that wasn't addressed early on because maybe they didn't get a roofing inspection, which is something that we'll get into later. But y'all's jobs is just so valuable, and people really rely on y'all's honesty, and I feel like you guys really y'all give off that very much so with the honesty, and that's why I love working with y'all. How did y'all decide, or how did y'all get together as far as, you would start saying, hey, you need a roofing guy to come out? I'm like, yeah, sure, yeah, let's do it.
Yes.
How'd that happen?
Well, that's a good question. So I try to not only roofing, but the of a house, I try to get the main, roofing, electrical, plumber, have one or two contractors that I really rely on and trust, so I can pass it on to my customers or clients or to the realtor. A lot of realtors have their own people too, but at least, sometimes we need more than one estimate or quote or something like that. So I've been through several roofing companies. It was actually very discouraged with, some of the most popular ones around here, and they were out for their pocketbook more than anything, and I'll just be honest with you. And that's not the way I do business. To me, it's about the customer, it's about the client. Let's get them in the house, get them the best report, the most honest report, like you said, in like a customer service. And so I joined a Power Core group, which is a small business group. It was in Fayetteville, and right before COVID hit, and so we were in there, and they have basically a round table or so of 20 or 30 people, different contractors and businesses and so forth. And Dave was actually in there, and part of the thing you do, they just call it, let's have coffee together, which is an excuse to drink some coffee and hang out and talk. And I got to meet Dave, and I mean, I could tell right away Dave is a super honest guy, and he reminded me a lot about me. And I was and I didn't tell him this, I don't think I've ever, but I was jumping up and down inside, right? Because I was like, man, I think I finally found a good roofing guy that I can count on, and help me out with roof inspections. I get on the roofs myself, or I fly a drone as well. But the good thing about Dave coming out is, he can come out with me, or, we can work out with the realtors where he comes out the day before or the day after, as long as we're in the due diligence. And Dave is awesome. He gets in the attic, he walks through the whole attic, looks at the roof from underneath, then gets on top. And he gets on some roofs I wouldn't even get on. I'm like, I used to jump out of airplanes in the Army, right? And I'm like, man, this guy's crazy.
I still need to do that.
Yeah, so, and so then what I like about him is he inspects the whole roof, and then he does a detailed video, and he'll send that video
I
to
love
the
that
client,
too.
Yeah, to the clients and the agent, so there's no mistake, and he's not making anything up or trying to rob people from money. And very honest guy, and he'll tell them, hey, you may have 1 or 2 years left, and I can patch this or that, or if you want a full quote. So well, I'm sending the report the same day. He's also sending his report the same day. So if
Yeah.
I did the report and you get it at 6:00 at night, and then there's a roof issue, now we have to try to find a roof for the next day or 2 days later, which is in your due diligence. Sometimes it doesn't fit. So it's nice
Right.
having him out. He'll give a very detailed video report as well as an estimate to you the same day. So
Yeah.
it expedites everything and stuff like that. So, as long as I can get him on my schedule, he's very popular and busy. So it's, I shouldn't have put his name out so much because now I can hardly get him. So I'm surprised he's sitting here today. So, so that's how I met him and how he works with me. So
what about you, Dave? What's your experience from your side?
Yeah, a lot of the same. So PowerCore has been good to me, and that's where I have met Eric and a few other people in construction as well. But it's just good to be able to have a way to connect with realtors,
right?
A way to connect with homeowners. A lot of times, like you said, be able to inspect the whole roof, the inside to the outside.
Yeah.
Take that video, and I like to work with somebody who has the same passion as me. Thorough, honest, and just does a really good job. And if I associate with him, my name's attached to him as well as his name's attached to me. So we both got to be able to trust each other, and I think we can do so.
That's right. Yeah, absolutely. Working, just working with people you trust is probably the biggest. The biggest thing in business. And sometimes, roofing companies, particularly because of how they work, sometimes they're not honest and they just want an opportunity to file a claim and get paid. And sometimes, I guess sometimes that can help some people because they get a new roof, but in actuality, it's not always needed. And roofing is a big deal. The major functions of the home is a big deal. So we are going to go into some more about the actual inspection process and talk a little bit more about what that is, why it's important, what you guys charge, that sort of stuff, and give everybody a good idea. So this is the At Home with Allison show, and we want to give you as much information as possible and for it to be accurate and honest and upfront. So let's talk about it. Eric, why do you think, obviously we've talked about some of it, but why do you think inspections truly are so important?
Yeah, that's a good question. I get asked that a lot, especially with new construction. And maybe I think later we're going to talk about some stories or whatever. I'll get into new construction, but when you're buying a house, I don't care if it's a $100,000 house or a $3.2 million residential house, which I think is the most expensive I've ever done. A house is a big investment, right? Yeah. And I treat them all the same. Like I said, I don't care if it's a $100,000 house. I put my heart and soul into it.
Yeah.
Or if it's a $3.2 million, I put my heart and soul into it because that's a lot of money for whoever's buying at the time, right?
Yeah.
So whether it's your first house or your fifth house, it doesn't matter. So, a small fee for a home inspection can save you thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars and headaches and tears, sleepless nights, stress, and all that stuff. It's just a good investment for buying a house. It's like buying a car. You're not gonna, maybe nowadays some people do because of COVID, with the COVID situation, but when you buy a car, you're going to go to the car lot and you're going to drive it. You're going to look at it. Some people take it to a mechanic, because that's an investment, $30,000 or $100,000 car or truck.
Absolutely.
So it's the same thing with the house. And there could be some safety things in the house that the sellers may not know, or the realtors on each side, or the buyers, and we may catch something that could have saved someone's life, whether it be mold or electrical issue, or termites or something like that, in a house, a roof issue with leaks, and a lot of times we get up in the attic and the the attic had been on fire and no one knew it. So, so we can save people, thousands of dollars, and it's a safety port too that goes into play with it that, potentially save someone's life. So, so we do a lot. One of the things is, for an example, here in Newnan, after the tornado, a lot of the homes were destroyed, and a lot of people were, using these quick flippers. And I got a story of real quick, a young couple, they were in their late 20s, and I did a new home for them in a different town, and they told me a story that theirs was one of their first houses that got flipped, and the contractors covered up all the mold with new drywall, and they got sick. And so after investigations, So a lot of homes that are flipped, a lot of people watch the HD TV and think it's easy, and so sometimes we go in there and find a lot of safety issues wrong with houses. So
with the DIY stuff.
Yeah, the DIY, the homeowners do it and stuff like that. So it's everybody. It's the inside of the house always looks good, but it's the attic, the roof, and the crawl space that people neglect to work on sometimes for those homes. But even new construction. I'll talk about that later. But it's a huge investment that can save you lots of money, and sometimes we don't find very much, which I'm happy for. If I could write a report and say this is the best house ever and I didn't find anything, hopefully you feel good that at least you put your due diligence into making sure the house was good for you and your family. So
the price, that's probably the biggest thing that you mentioned, is that the price of a home inspection is so minimal compared to the potential issues that you'd run into with the home. Let's just say, I know it depends on like square footage, location, and things like that, but let's just say like the average cost is probably between like $400 and $600. Would you say that that's pretty? Yeah,
I'm probably a little bit cheaper than that too. And it, like you said, it depends. It's when people call me, I always ask for the square foot, and what type of foundation. Does it have a crawl space? Does it have a basement? If it's finished, unfinished, and stuff like that. But traditionally, I'm in the $375 to $450 range.
Okay.
Now, that's just for a home inspection. Nothing, no radon and no indoor air quality or stuff like that.
Right.
And then what else I can bring is a free roof inspection. I can call Dave, and I also have a termite company that's local here that I use, and they'll do a free termite inspection if we need it. So those are some other things I can bring to the table. But somewhere in that range, it can be higher. I've done homes. One home cost me $2,100. So, but they wanted the gamut. So and it was a big house. So but traditionally, it's you're probably $375. Apartments and stuff like that are probably cheaper, but your $375 to $450 is kind of the average, somewhere in there. So
Dave, why do you think that roofing inspections are so important? What's the value there?
Yeah, so in my opinion, the roof is one of the most important parts of your home, right? It's protecting your family, it's protecting everything you have on the inside. So without a good roof, you leave all that stuff kind of open to the elements.
Yeah.
So we try to do a thorough inspection. We start, as we talked about earlier, looking for active leaks in the attic, getting on the roof, looking at the pipe boots, looking at the valleys, the flashing.
Yeah.
All those areas that we commonly see, leaks, just to be sure that they look good, they're sealed up and taken care of. Most of the time on a home inspection, especially, it's maintenance that we see. Maybe 1 out of 10 roofs, 1 out of 15, actually the roof's wore out and it needs to be replaced. But very rarely that's the case, and just a lot of maintenance needs to be done. The other thing, that we often look at is gutters and things like that. Are they working properly? Is the water flowing the right way, not to get under the foundation, into the crawl space?
Yeah.
Are they rusted out? Are they filled up with debris? And we'll take a look at those things as well.
And you guys do, what is the cost for your inspections?
So, as Eric said before, we do a video as well, so everybody will get a video of the inspection. Our inspections are free.
Okay.
Whether it's with the home inspection or individually, we don't charge you anything for inspections.
So that's a huge thing too, guys. You have your home inspector that comes out to look at major functions of the home. It's a minimal cost to what it can be. The roof is one of the biggest, probably the most expensive, other than like foundational issues and other things like that. It's the most expensive part of the home, and you can get a free inspection without having to pay an exorbitant amount for someone to come out and go through thoroughly the attic, the exterior of the roof, the gutters and everything like that. If the gutters are full or whatever, they can overflow and get underneath the roof and get some of that fascia and rot some of that out and stuff as well.
Correct.
So there's just a lot there for people to really be aware of. What, Eric, for you, so when you go to a house, what's your process like? What are you looking for, big and small? What do you do?
Yeah, so the typical home inspection is, is very detailed and thorough with me. I get the comments a lot, which and I've seen other inspection reports from out of state and stuff, and it's only 3 pages, and I'm like, okay, am I going overboard? So I get that a lot, but I do get a lot of comments to how detailed and thorough we are. And like I tell most people, probably 95% of the stuff we find in the house is just general homeowner maintenance. We get in areas that the homeowner's never been or never will, in the attic or, crawl space, and so they may not know some of these things that we find. And most of the stuff are pretty easy fixes and stuff like that. So, I'm starting on the roof, whether Dave's there or not, either with my drone or I'll climb it, or I try to get my guy here, Dave. And then we get in the attic, and there's lots of stuff in the attic we do besides the roof leaks or looking at the structure. There might be an HVAC system in there, looking at insulation, looking for vermin. That's a big thing also here in Georgia. And then we just work our way down. We're checking bathrooms and outlets and plumbing and windows and structure, working our way down, if it's a 2-story house, to the kitchen, running the entire kitchen. So every outlet, every window, everything gets touched in the house if we can get to it.
Right.
So if it's a vacant house, every window, every outlet, so forth and so on. If it's occupied, we try to still get all that stuff. If there's furniture in the way, we're not supposed to move that stuff. So there might be a few things we can't get to, but one of the things I bring to the table is my thermal imager. And that's been a moneymaker. It's an expensive tool, but it's been a lifesaver for me as far as, looking for leaks in walls, in the cabinets. Like when, if you guys were to open your cabinet in your kitchen now, you got a whole bunch of supplies down there.
Right.
It's hard to see leaks and water and stuff like that. So that's one thing my thermal can pick up if there's water. So it kind of saves me time and stuff like that. So, if there's a roof leak or there's a ceiling leak, something like that, we can test it with the thermal and then back it up with a moisture meter and so forth and so on. Then we just work our way down to the basement if it has it or crawl space, and then the outside of the house. We do a thorough inspection of the outside HVAC system and the siding and windows and grading, termites, and stuff like that. So it's most home inspections depend on square foot. You're looking 2 to 4 hours maybe, and I don't really set a time limit on it. When I'm done, I'm done, and then then we do the report and send the report that same night. So you'll have the report the same day.
So the report too, and this is something you note everything that you see, whether good or bad. Just because something's on there doesn't mean it's bad, right?
Correct. So one of the things like I said, customer service is kind of my pet peeve, and when I started my own company, it gave me a little bit more freedom to educate people.
Yeah.
Right. And I love it, especially first-time home buyers. Sometimes the real estate agents are new and they want to learn. You were talking fascias and eaves and stuff. And I'm like, man, she's listening on our home inspections, right? So that's good. I like it. You're using terminology that we use. So, it's fun. So I like educating people. And so that way when you move in, simple things is, before I did this, I was in the military. I never really owned a house. And so which way does the filter go in the air filter? There's an arrow. Does it go towards the machine? Yeah. Simple things like that. You take for granted. And so, where's your main water cutoff? How do you turn the power off to your house? Where's the gas valves at? Stuff that when there's an emergency, of course, it's going to happen at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
You can remember, hey, Eric said this, or I put so many pictures in my report. You can go back to your report and find the main water cutoff or whatever and stuff like that. So education is a big thing for me. And, so most of the stuff I tell clients is, I can't tell you what to ask for repairs from the sellers or stuff like that. That's between you and your realtor. But whatever things you don't ask for or get repaired, now you kind of have a honey-do list. And, and as you can afford it, as you need it, you can, make changes to those items or upgrade or whatever you want to do and stuff like that. So, that way you have a kind of a comprehensive list of your house. Yeah. So you know how to prioritize, okay, maybe that big screen TV isn't as important as fixing some wood rot that sellers wouldn't fix for us or something like that. So, stuff like that. So
I think that's the coolest part of the inspection process is that you get the small things, something as small as, the kitchen sink is a little bit loose and it's leaking a little bit, to the big things, like you said, like mold or like a crack in foundation or something that's just a lot more costly. So you're going to get a breakdown through this process of every little and big thing. And then also you're going to get you're going to know that and get the peace of mind that, oh, the HVAC is running properly right now. Like, everything's good with that. You don't have to worry about that. So that's what I really like about the reports as well. And then for you, Dave, you mentioned you get under the attic, you're looking at everything, you look at the gutters, you look at the exterior. So what do you look for? What's the difference in a roof that's just damaged versus a roof that's aged? How do you determine that?
Yep. So we look at like the granular material.
Okay.
So the granular is that rocky substance that is on the shingle. The more of that you see in the gutters, the more of that you may look at the shingle and it don't really have much of that granular material on. That kind of tells you how old the roof is.
Right.
Is it still able to shed water? Is it still able to function? And how much life do you have left in it?
Okay.
I recommend any roof about 10 to 12 years old to be looked at because it's kind of that age is kind of where you start to see the maintenance items, and the more you take care of the roof, the longer it's going to last.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I compare roofs a lot to cars. You know, the more you take care of it, the more you change your oil, the more you maintenance, the longer it's going to last for you.
What are the typical like lifespans when you? I mean, there's like 20-year roof, 30-year roof.
Yeah. So you have your 3-tab shingles, the simple shingles you see a lot on new homes.
Right.
Kind of a builder grade shingle. You typically, that's a 20-year shingle.
Okay.
Architectural shingles, most that we see on are 30 years. The ones we put on now are like a limited lifetime 50-year shingle.
Okay. What do you think is the most durable or the most sturdy type of roof to have?
So we use a lot of the Owens Corning duration shingle.
Okay.
It's a 50-year shingle. It's an architectural shingle.
50 years. Wow.
It has a 130 mile per hour wind rating. It's gonna last somebody their lifespan.
So if someone, let's say that you have a roof that comes back, it's pretty bad. We may be nearing the end of its lifespan, but we're not quite there yet. What is a process that like the seller or the homeowner can take to potentially get it replaced through like homeowners insurance or something like that?
Yeah. So in my video inspection and the inspection I do, we always look at the soft metals. That'll tell us if we have hail damage up there. Those will be dented, and if they're dented, then your roof could be affected by hail. We also look for wind damage, which the shingles kind of get bent back and leave a crease at the top of the shingles. If you see those, of course, every insurance company works a little bit different.
Yeah.
And that's plays a big part into kind of my advice to somebody.
Yeah.
But if, you got to have some sort of storm damage, wind or hail, and then it depends again what insurance you have.
Right. And I will say that if you're a buyer and you're going into a situation where you have a roof inspection done by Dave or somebody, and it comes back that it's damaged pretty heavily, it maybe have a few years left on its lifespan. There's been many situations where we've gone through the process of using the home insurance to have the seller replace the roof for the deductible, which is only like $1,000 or $2,000 versus 12, 15, 20, 30 grand or more to get the roof replaced. And I've either had the seller pay that towards closing costs for the buyer, or just have them go ahead and pay it. So there's a lot of leverage there for buyers when they're coming in. If a seller has insurance that's willing to do it, or if they even have home insurance at all, because if they bought it cash, they don't have to, right?
Right.
Yep.
So those are some really good things to know and, be aware of. And even just as a homeowner, it's like you don't have to freak out when you give them the quote of $15,000.
Right.
You're going to also give them the option of, look, try to go through your homeowner's insurance. There's only been, I think maybe one time ever that the roof was too old, and I think you were actually part of that one, Dave. The roof was just too old where they wouldn't cover it, and it was just past its lifespan. So if it's a lifespan issue, they don't take care of it typically. But
Correct.
If it's damage issue,
if it's damaged by a storm, no matter the age, insurance will help out.
okay,
Typically, depending on insurance. But if it has no storm damage, insurance is going to tell you it's an old, worn-out roof.
right,
Again, it's kind of like your car. if they're not going to pay to do maintenance on it, they're not going to pay to replace your tires.
Yeah.
They're not going to pay when it's old and worn out. But if you wreck it, no matter the age, they're going to help you out.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, Dave's actually helped, even though he comes with the buyer side, the people buying the house with me to, inspect it, and there's an issue with the roof with the realtors. He's actually worked with the selling side, with permission with the buyer's agent and stuff like that, to help them get through the process of an insurance job too. So just because he came with the buyers, he can help the sellers as well. They can get in contact with them, because he was there already, instead of them trying to find a roofer and another roofing company or whatever. So he can work with the sellers even after the deal's done if the realtors allow it. So that's good.
And the buyer too. I had a situation where the seller had home insurance, but it was he owned like 100 properties or something. Okay. So it was a weird, but I was like, look, I said, this was probably a couple years ago. I was like, look, the roof still has potential. It has damage. I was like, just get into the house, wait for a storm to come through, and then file it. They moved in 3 weeks later, there was a storm, and they filed it, boom, got the roof replaced for $1,000. Yeah. So it's like, even if you're the buyer and you're going in, you have the potential. You never know. I mean, the seller may have a home insurance company that isn't going to do it and doesn't want to work with you, and then your insurance company, you get in, something happens, and then it gets replaced. So just because you can't get it replaced doesn't necessarily mean you need to spend and go the whole I'm paying the whole thing route. You may have a potential with that. So we got some comments here. Keep in mind the buyer will not be able to claim on the insurance after they close. So the reason we were able to do that with our buyer is because the seller's adjuster never went out there. So the claim was never actually started and never filed. So that is correct, Lynn. If you file one and try to file a claim before you purchase it and then you purchase it, there would have to be new damage, new something, correct, in order.
A new storm date. Yep. You have to have a storm date from when you have the property insured.
Right.
Yep. So that could be a day after you buy it, or it could be a year whenever that storm comes through.
Right. Yeah, so that's a really good point. And then the insurance goes by the date of loss. So, the seller would need to have to file the loss before they close. That's exactly right. And Roofing Done Right says that they're thrilled to have the opportunity to be here and have Dave here. So that is really, really awesome. We really appreciate that. So we talked about the inspection process, why they're important, some leverage there. What for you, Eric? What are the biggest things that you look for cost-wise that you run into the most commonly?
Yeah, so the good example is the roof. Roof is a big one here because we get lots of heat during the summertime, lots of storms, hail, tree branches like that. So the roof. Usually the big ticket items is the roof, the HVAC system, and the water heater. Okay. Depending on the foundation, what type of foundation. Sometimes the foundation crawl space is an issue too, stuff like that. So usually those are the big ticket items. So the good thing I with my contractors that I use is I tell them I want you to help my clients out. So if Dave's not there, I may send a picture while I'm at the inspection, or if I have an HVAC question or electrical question, I'll send it to my contractors and get the professional opinion right there. And I might be able to get a cost for repair at that time as well. And I get that, hey, Eric, how much is this going to cost? And I don't quote prices. I don't know what everybody's charging. If you're going to use a licensed electrician or a handyman that's qualified, that's not that's up to you guys. So those are usually the big ticket items, and then the rest of the stuff is just, general homeowner maintenance stuff and, wood rot here and there, and maybe a leaky pipe or a pipe installed incorrectly under the sinks and, and stuff like that. Maybe some moisture damage on the ceiling from something leaking above and stuff like that. So
that's an important thing too. I think for people to know is that you don't do the work. That's not your job. Eric's job, home inspector job, is to go into the home, look at everything, be very thorough with it, and give you the report.
Correct.
So you have contractors and things like that you have connections with that you can refer to people, but you don't do estimates on work or anything like that. Dave, you do the inspections. Do y'all also do the work if someone wants to replace the roof?
We sure do. Yep. So we'll do the inspection. With the inspection, will come the video and a quote, and then we have the crews to do the work.
Yeah.
Yep.
I will say the video is so helpful. I think the first time that Eric had brought you on for an inspection and you sent that, I was like, that is super helpful. I was able to go through everything and talk through the insurance process with the buyer and figure that stuff out. So that's something that's really helpful and makes a huge difference. These things are, they're probably the biggest part of the buying process, other than, of course, the lending side of things.
Yeah. That's not our lane.
Yeah, and so you obviously look for mold and things like that, but you can also have a mold inspector come out to further evaluate what you find and then give a detailed quote with that. Do you find mold in the attic and underneath the roofs a lot?
So we do look at the roof decking. And anytime that's rotted out, that needs to be replaced. You got to get that rot out of there.
Okay.
That's going to help with mold in the home and the air quality as well.
Right.
Yep.
What are some issues that, like, big issues that maybe people wouldn't realize comes from neglecting a roof?
Oh, man.
Yeah. So neglect, like your pipe boots, they're going to rot out. They're going to dry rot from the
What
sun.
are pipe boots for people that don't know?
So you have your white vent pipes that come up out of your roof. There's a rubber boot around that helps seal it up. It's made out of rubber, so in this heat, in the sun, it dry rots.
Oh, really? Wow.
So about that's why we say, 10 to 12 years a home should be looked at. Those will start rotting, and then you get a lot of rotten wood on the inside of that. Also, flashing is a big issue.
Yeah, around chimneys.
Chimney,
Yeah.
We see a lot of rotten wood around chimneys. So, just keep, you can't neglect that stuff. You got to keep it up. You got to keep up on caulk. Caulk is kind of the same as rubber. It dry rots out.
Right.
And so we can do so much with roofing material, so much with flashing, but anywhere we got to use caulk, we can't. That caulk is going to wear out over time, and it needs to be peeled off and new put on.
Right.
Every 10 years.
Well, the vent boot issue also, when they deteriorate and they get holes, that's how the squirrels and vermin get into our attic.
Oh, yeah.
So or flashing, I've seen snakes come out of flashing. I've seen squirrels and
not
and
in my
like,
house.
Yeah, so that's important to know. Even the edges of the roof, the soffit eaves, where they can replace that too. And any holes, that's how the vermin get into our attic. And obviously, especially with all the vegetation we have here in the state that gets close to your house, the trees can also, the granite material on the shingles, if the wind's blowing, it can rub that wrong. So we want to get the vegetation off for the roof lifespan, and also we don't want the vermin to get in our attic. That's how they jump in or whatever. Obviously they can jump, or sometimes we have flying squirrels, but that's how vermin get in our attic when these vent boots and flashing is not secure or properly installed, or wore out. So that's a good thing to check.
So maintaining the roof and all major functions of your home, maintaining them, getting them repaired when they need it, and being aware that you need to inspect it. How often would you say that someone should look at their roof?
10 to 12 years.
Okay.
Yeah. It's not
unless there's an active issue
unless
that
you
you're
have an
aware
active
of.
leak. Yep. Or you get a strong storm come through.
Yeah.
You had hail damage. You had bad wind. It costs nothing to have us look at it.
Right.
Well, the other thing is the chimney cap. Dave actually came to a house here in Noonan with me, and the chimney cap was leaking, and it ran down the inside of the chimney chase down to the basement, got behind the wall, and it was an unfinished basement, but it had insulation on the wall that was stapled, and he found moisture had gone all the way down to the basement wall, and that whole wall was black and it was rotted out. So, and then that's before I even got there and he let me know about it, and I was like, oh man. So there was a pretty big issue with the whole chimney cap all the way down, and the flashing around it was leaking all the way down to the basement. And thank God it was an unfinished basement.
Right.
Because if it was finished, we probably would never seen that moisture behind that wall until it was too late.
Well, that was something that, I was actually just thinking about before you said that, is that if people have these issues and they're not aware, it can be in their walls in their house and them not even know it.
Yep.
So, I guess what advice in that situation? I mean, is there even anything that you can do to prevent not knowing? I mean,
that's one of the reasons I bring my thermal imager. I try the thermal. The chimney in a house is a good spot around chimney base. Usually your fireplace is below it, and then around windows. So when we do the exterior, we're looking for flashing and on the windows and drip edge and kick out flashing around the roof that the roofers put in around chimneys and corners and stuff like that to see if we can see if water's coming down the wall. Sometimes on the outside, if we see it leaking in or on a ceiling, maybe a stain, then we check the wall and the doors and the windows. And then we get in the basement, that's the lowest level. So all the water's going to obviously come down with plumbing and stuff like that. So I try to use that's why I bring it. It's not the end all be all. And that's why I tell clients is, we got drywall around us. It's hard to see through the drywall, to find stuff. But we try to do our best to investigate off of other clues maybe we have. Maybe improperly installed flashing, or the roof or the shingles are missing and there's a big hole and stuff like that. So we try to do our best to try to piece things together and use a thermal imager as much as possible, or moisture meters, and to try to catch that stuff. But we can't catch it all. That's unfortunate because we can't see through the walls, but we try to do our best.
Yeah, I think that's huge. One thing that I learned from the Mold Man when they were here on the show is that moisture and mold doesn't exist up north. She said mold's not in houses up north. It's just like a southern thing because we're more like tropical here.
You don't see it near as much,
Yeah.
Lots of humidity.
Yeah.
I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah. That's why we get in the crawl spaces, because the crawl spaces are the only ventilation in the crawl spaces, those little vents we have. Some people don't really understand how to work them. So that cross breeze, if we get any, is the only ventilation for it. So any moisture we get in the crawl space, whether the grading's coming towards it, water gets in there, a pipe is leaking, even your duct work in the summertime, because the HVAC is going to condensate and it's going to drip. So any type of moisture we get in there, and there's so much humidity in our crawl space that's why on the subfloor and the floor joists, that's why we get a little bit of fungal growth. And most crawl spaces, I have one myself, most crawl spaces is going to have some form of fungal growth. It's just how much is it and how bad is it, or the toilet flange leaks, or the shower, and it rots out that wood up underneath there, and then we get a lot more moisture. So that's one of the things in the crawl space we're looking at, obviously. But you definitely see it a lot in crawl spaces. So
what's the craziest thing you've ever seen in a crawl space?
Well, I knock on wood, thank God I haven't. I call them no necks. Or nope ropes, a lot of people call them, or snakes. I'm not a big snake fan, but I get under there and I do a thorough job, and I go around the perimeter first, and then that's usually where they're up on that sill plate if they're there. I've only seen a few in the 8 years I've been doing this, but just recently I did a home inspection. The funny thing was the homeowners hired me to do it. It was their father's house who had passed away, and they wanted me to do an inspection. I did their son's house, and so they hired me, and they told me it was a slab. So when I got there, I could tell immediately it was a crawl space. I was like, oh no. And I didn't charge them for it, but this being me, I'm going to do it anyway. So, and my termite guy was there, and the good thing, I hope they're not watching, but the good thing about them is they get in the crawl space before me, right? And the tech they had out there, he'll come in and he goes, hey Eric, I had a snake in my hand. I tried to grab and get rid of him for you, but he slithered on or something like that. And I always tell him, hey, don't tell me they're down there. I'd rather not know. But so anyways, the HVAC system was down on the side. It's how it was hung. And he said there was a nest on top. And that's all he told me. I said, okay. So in the house had been vacant for a while, stuff like that. So when I got down there and got in the crawl space, it was kind of in the middle of the crawl space. It wasn't a very big one. You could kind of see the whole perimeter. And I said, well, I'll do the HVAC system now and just knock it out.
Right.
So I got up there and I could tell that the gas line going to HVAC was improperly installed. It was a flexible gas line that's not recommended. And so I was moving the leaves and the debris on top of it to get a picture of it. And I did that.
Oh, no.
No, it's not. I haven't got to the good part.
Okay.
Right, so I'm like, okay. So anyways, I crawl around. I come around the backside, and I had gloves on. And I didn't. So the whole point is me saying it was a cross. I didn't have all my crawl space gear. Because I wasn't expecting it to be a crawl space, right? So, so I was sitting there, and I had a glove on. I had to take a glove to take a picture of something, and I dropped it. And I looked down in the dirt, and there was a hole, big hole about, the size of a coffee cup. And I was like, man, watch a snake come out of there and scare me. And I'm thinking, I'm like 400,000 times its size, right? Why am I scared of that snake? And so I'm putting my glove on, and I hear this noise to my right ear via the HVAC system. And it's this hissing sound. And it's probably 5-6 feet away. And I turned and I looked to my right, and it was, the fish store. It was this possum. It was this big, right? So which is big, and it was staring at me with those beady eyes. So when I was moving that debris, it was sitting in his nest right there, and I kind of pushed him. I was thinking if I would have probably swiped one more time, he probably would have bit me. So then I was like, so I had my phone. I called my termite guy, the pest control. I'm like, Justin, you were just in here. You didn't tell me. He goes, I didn't see him. And I said, what do I do? And he goes, don't go towards it. Don't touch it. And I'm like, and I start laughing. I'm like, that's the last thing I'm going to do, right? So I just kind of eased my way around and finished and kept watching him, and I had to go around him. And then he was behind me, so I kept, like a scary movie, keep checking behind you. And anyways, I got out there. He didn't attack. He was hissing at me or whatever they do. But I tell you, possums don't look big until you're eye to eye with them, and you're on your hands and knees and stuff like that. So it was kind of a scary, funny story at the same time. So like that. So that was kind of. I've had a cat jump out of insulation. It scared. I grabbed the insulation down in the crawl space, and a black cat jumped out. I thought it was a snake.
Oh, a black one.
So yeah. So stuff like that. So nothing too terribly. It's funnier afterwards. But so.
What about you, Dave? What's maybe a most costly experience, or like the craziest thing that you've seen on or under a roof?
Yeah, that's why I am not
a home inspector.
A home inspector or a pest control, because I don't like snakes. But I have seen a snake in a gutter. I have seen frogs down in those pipes coming up. You look down and there's a little frog sitting in there. But probably the thing we run into that makes us shake our head is like when people put a roof over a roof. We get out there and there's a couple layers of shingles, and we're like, what's the point of trying to save a few bucks and taking the old shingles off and putting new on?
Why do people do that? Put 2 layers.
Save money.
Okay.
The removal cost.
So it costs to.
It costs to take them off and clean it all up and put new on, but.
And then that would keep them from revealing what's actually underneath the first layer, which could be very detrimental.
Rotten wood, things like that.
You get a lot of leaks, a lot of holes.
And then you get caught out in a home like that, and they say we have a leak. Well, that water could be coming in up here, but until it gets under the second layer, it's coming in down here, and you can't really tell, what's causing that leak.
Right.
It makes it very difficult.
So, Eric, God bless him. I know for a fact that we're not going to say any names, of course, but let's just say that I had some very, what's the word? I don't want to say crazy clients, because that's not necessarily the nicest thing. A very eclectic, very
unique,
just very difficult, let's say. And
strange.
Very strange. Have you dealt with anybody like them?
Nope.
I tell people, and this is a story for one day on this show. I've actually said it on stage at a comedy event. That's how bizarre that experience was. But I felt so bad for Eric, because he obviously is a tough guy, been in the military, right? Yeah. And I get a call from him one day, and he's like, I can't deal with this anymore. These people are driving me nuts. He said they keep calling me over and over, and they're saying and asking me all these crazy things. Do you remember some of the things that they were asking you to check for?
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot. They wanted me to do. The problem is they always led with the story was their profession, and one was, I think he said FBI, and then next time he was a Secret Service guy, and
he told me he worked for Ronald Reagan.
And then he worked for Ronald Reagan. I couldn't remember, president or something
Pilot,
like that.
Yeah.
And then they always led off of that, and then they asked me one of them was, they wanted me to check the squares of the wall, get a square, and make sure they were all 90 degrees, and that they were, because if not, then it wasn't built right.
Oh.
And I was like, well, that's not really my job, and stuff like that. So they wanted me to go buy a square and do it. They wanted me to put it. They wanted me to put a garden.
That's not even the worst either.
I know. They wanted me to put a garden hose in the gutters to check the slope, to make sure they sloped right, and to put water in the overflow pan of the HVAC system, make sure the emergency safety switch would kick on and stuff like that. It was just, and they were like, asked me what type of coils were in the HVAC system.
Right.
I mean, just stuff, and what type of wires are behind the walls. They wanted me to take off the electrical outlet plates, and which I can't do. It's not my house, so I can't do that. But it was just on and on. I mean, and it was like 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and because I always tell people, I tell realtors and everybody, even if you're at the inspection, whether you're there, you're there part of the time, or you're not there. Once you get the inspection report that night, and you've talked to your realtor and your spouse or whoever else, call me and I'll go over the whole report if you want to give it to you, or sections of it.
Right.
Well, they took that literally, and I honored it, and I was as professional as I could be with some of the stuff, but it was just the awkwardness of the questions, and they caught me off guard because I've never heard that before.
Well, some of the things too that you told me that I remember that ironically aren't any of the things you said is that they wanted the windows to be air sealed tight, so much so that an ant couldn't fit through them.
Yeah.
They also said that they wanted the house to be able to get like to freezing temperatures or something because they like to live like polar bears.
Polar bears, yep.
And then they asked for him to make sure that there was enough electricity in the house to power a computer.
Yeah.
So yeah, we were getting lots of that. So I want to say home inspectors deal with a lot. But just, briefly, I think you were do y'all have any like horror stories about your job or some things that you've ran into other than, like pests and things like that? Is there anything just crazy?
I just had a recent one, and most people probably think I'm going to go to an old home, but I'm going to actually go to a new construction home. So on a new construction home, as most of y'all know, there's several steps we can do as an inspection. We can just do the final one before you move in. We can do the pre-drywall, which is when it's still in sticks. You can do a slab, all that stuff. So usually I do the pre-drywall inspection and then the final inspection. But when you buy a new construction home, you get a builder's 12-month warranty with the house, right?
Okay.
So there's another inspection called the 11-month inspection. So the 11th month you're in the house, you can call us back or somebody else back at home inspector, and they can do a full-blown inspection one more time. And that way you can turn your paperwork in to the warranty company that you work, the builder's warranty company, so that way you can get everything fixed one more time before you own the house.
Right.
So just recently here, I just did a home 11-month inspection. The couple, super, super sweet. They were probably in their upper 80s. The husband had dementia. He was an electrical engineer, and it's kind of an electrical issue I had here. And so I walked in, super sweet, and the wife started talking about, a couple weeks ago we smelled mulch smell, and we had this kind of a poof of smoke coming in our house, and we had to put a space heater in this bedroom right here. And, I mean, it's a brand new house, right? It's only 1,500 square foot slab. And so and in my head I'm trying to figure out what is she talking about without asking too many questions.
Right.
So we got done. She showed me some things. So I started walking around, I started doing my inspection, and I had to go up in the attic and check the attic where the HVAC system and some electrical air handlers up there. And when I walked up, I started smelling electrical smell. And so I was like, oh no. And so to the side of it, there's it's a non-fusible, what they call a shipping plug, where I think it's made of copper and plastic. You put it in, it connects two electrical things, and it runs the HVAC system. And I went over and I smelled it, and it was, I think you've all smelled the electrical smell. It's horrid. And I picked the cover up, and the shipping plug was all melted, and it was sparking and smoking when I did it. And I was like, oh no. So, and of course I'm thinking, okay, my clients are elderly, the husband's got dementia and stuff like that. Now I understand what the white smoke's from. Now I understand what the smell is. It wasn't mulch, it was burning wires. And they smelled it a couple weeks ago, but it got worse and worse and worse. So I went down, I talked to the clients, their oldest daughter was there with them to help them out. They called the builder, because I asked them, and the good thing about, I called my HVAC guy, very responsive. I have a really good guy, so he was helping me out with it. He advised me to have them leave the house, even if we shut the breakers off until it's fixed.
Right.
Well, the builder that built this house later on that night sent some people out there, so we stopped the inspection. But came to find out, the breaker was oversized for the unit.
Oh.
And it caused this, so it's a simple thing.
So it was builder error.
It was between the HVAC or the electrician where somebody put the wrong breaker size into. A lot of people, I have pictures on my Facebook page there. It's pictures don't show it justice, and obviously you can't smell that awful smell. But people ask me all the time, do I need a home inspection on a new home? And I said that's up to you. I don't like to spend people's money. I know money's tight sometimes, and stuff like that. So I tell people, if you want it done, to have me check it out to make sure these things don't happen. And another thing with new construction is I got a builder's warranty. I don't need to worry about it. But in this case, this house could have caught on fire.
Absolutely.
And it was smoking and sparking, so it was probably pretty close. And with them being in the attic and their bedroom not being close to this attic access, elderly and the husband have dementia, who knows what can happen. So
right.
I was very thankful that I did that 11-month, and it wasn't like some miracle catch I found, stuff like that. But if they wouldn't have had it, the house probably would have caught on fire at some point. So that's new construction. So and it's human built. People make mistakes, and that's why it's good to have another set of eyes. A lot of builders don't like us coming out, but for me, I try to talk to them, and I'm just another set of eyes for everybody, and go out there and write a report. I'm not trying to belittle anybody or anything like that.
Sure.
It's all about the clients for me.
Yep.
Make sure they get the house they want. In new construction, they're always being pushed to the right at closing dates, and they're frustrated. And I've had clients cry on my shoulder because they're so frustrated. And you just talk about the deal, and hey, when you move here, it's going to be okay, and stuff like that. It's just get to that process. So yeah, that was a close call. So.
Yeah, absolutely. What about you, Dave? Does anything stick out to you? Anything crazy?
Not too crazy. I mean, it's just a matter. It's a big construction project when we do full roof projects, and every now and then you run into that client that don't like maybe a couple nails that got left behind or things like that. But we try to do our best and clean up, and we just need patience from people.
Sure.
But yeah, we have our stories, but nothing too bad.
Yeah. What would you say that you love most about your job and what you do?
I love helping homeowners. I love to help identify problems and offer a solution to them.
Yeah. What's your favorite part of the actual inspection process? Do you like getting on the roof?
Depends what house.
Depends on how steep it is.
Depends how steep and how high.
Yeah.
If it's not terrible steep and high, I enjoy it. I like to get up there.
Yeah.
If they're steep and high, I start shaking a little bit, and sometimes I'm like, what am I doing? But,
yeah, and you have to wear particular type boots and stuff to get up there?
We wear, it's called cougar paws. They have like a spongy thing on the bottom of them that helps grip the shingles.
Okay.
Yep.
Or he'll call me. Eric, come help me.
I need to borrow your boots.
I've held the ladder for him a few times and stuff, so
hold the ladder.
He's got on some crazy roofs for me.
In case I start sliding down, somebody's there to stop it at the gutter.
Yeah.
What about you, Eric? What do you love most about your job?
Yeah, and I mean this to the bottom of my heart. It's customer service and my clients. I really mean it. I tell any employee that works for me, and I tell myself every morning I walk up is inspect this house like my mom's moving in, or my daughter, or a family member. And I truly mean it. Again, 100,000 to 3 million, whatever it is, I don't care. I treat it the same, and I always try to leave the house better than when I found it, and stuff like that. But it's the smile on their faces, or if we find some ooey gooey stuff, and I talk to them about how we can fix it and how it can be fixed. But sometimes it's just too much for them. They have to walk from that house and find another one. I had to walk from my first house when I moved here. I didn't get the first house. So I think God probably put me in that situation to say, okay, now you can pass it on to your clients, right? It's not always the first house. You might think it's the best thing to slice bread, and hey, I found a house. I'm in a way better house, I think, now, in a better location.
Yeah.
I got a nice pool and stuff like that now. So
that's one thing I can say too, is that I've never had an experience where someone thought they were getting a house that they really wanted and something went wrong, and they didn't end up in a home that they actually really truly loved or that worked out. I mean, seriously, I hope I don't jinx myself by saying that, but I've said this to multiple people when they cry and get upset from a really bad inspection, or they have an emotional experience and it doesn't work out. I'm like, look, there's never been a time where it hasn't worked out the way that it's supposed to. You'll be happy, or just as happy, if not more happy, wherever you end up. And it seems like you have that same experience.
Yeah, that's the way it should be. I mean, it's a huge investment, and I want to do the best possible inspection. And like I tell everybody, when I lay my head down at night and go to sleep, I want to go to sleep in peace and not think that
clear conscience.
And so I lay it all out there. And like I said, there may be a lot of stuff. And I tell people it's like drinking out of a fire hydrant. When I'm talking to you or you read the report the first time, it's like hitting you, and most of the stuff's going past your head and face. Yeah. You're only catching a little bit, and it's overwhelming because sometimes there's a lot of stuff, but sometimes a lot of stuff is just nitpicky little things. But I don't know. I want you to have a good, thorough inspection so that way you can fix those things, and sometimes you never fix them.
Right.
I had a huge report when I bought my house, and and I still have things in that report I never fixed. And I had a lot of electrical issues. I still bought my house. I just over time, and when you can afford it, that's when you fix it. So
sure.
Everybody's budget's different. That's why I never tell people to buy the house, not buy the house. I can't tell you that. That's up
Yep.
to you and your realtor and your bank account, right? So, and then, I can't, like she said earlier, I can't tell you how much things are going to cost, but I can refer you to some contractors that would definitely help you out. So that's why, I do that thorough inspection and then put a lot of pictures in there, a lot of recommendations. That's all I do is recommend, and then get that report to you that same day. That way you can do a turnaround quick on your due diligence time period and make the best decision for yourself and your house.
And Dave, you do the same thing. It comes out same day. Y'all are typically pretty close. Sometimes yours actually comes in sometimes before his does.
Yeah, I'm quick.
Yeah, he like immediately uploads it and sends it. You got a lot more to
He's
do.
trying to beat me. I'm there a lot longer than he is.
Yeah,
so.
exactly. Dave, if someone wants to reach out to you, if they want to contact you, they want a roofing inspection, who do they call? Where do they go?
Yep, they call me direct. My phone number is 678-877-4711.
Okay.
Call or text. That's going to be the quickest. If you call the office, sometimes it takes a little bit till it gets sent out.
Okay.
So it's best just to call me direct.
Where is y'all's home base, city-wise?
Atlanta.
Atlanta.
Yep.
Okay. Atlanta and surrounding, metro, everywhere.
Yeah, we cover Metro Atlanta.
Okay, cool. And Eric, they want to call you.
Yeah, so my phone number is 770-855-5678 or www.homescaninspector.com is my website. Or you can reach out to her. She's got my number. So
that's what I was
or come to
gonna
Keller
say.
Williams, and get you a good realtor, and then my cards are here and all that stuff too. So
Yeah,
and you can call or text. That's one of the things I do. I don't have a call center. It's me. So my cell phone, you can call or text me. Realtors, if you're out showing a house and you have a question about, is that polybutylene piping or is this Atlas Chalet shingles or what is this or whatever, feel free to text me and I'll try to do my best to answer you and help you out while you're there looking. So maybe you can just walk away from that house that's not for you, or ease some pain or stressful thing like, okay, that's not polybutylene, that's Murflex, which looks just like it. So, or something like that. So I can help the realtors out as well, while you're showing houses. So I'm able to do that too. And I know you guys work in the evenings and weekends, and so do I. So you're not bothering me. So I do my best.
I had a 9:30 last night. A realtor reached out with a text, about what will this cost, and we'll answer anytime.
Yeah.
I think that's part of our job, and these guys are our KW Noonan office preferred vendors for inspections and for roofing. As you've probably figured out through this, these are absolutely incredible guys. They do great work. They're very honest people, and I can vouch for that as well. Of course, you can reach out to me always, 678-634-9770, and contact these guys. If you want to ask them any questions, reach out to them, comment on this video. We're going to have this, of course, streaming Monday morning, 10 a.m. every week for the At Home with Allison show. So listen out. We'll have you guys back again at some point. Yeah. We really, really appreciate you being here. This is just valuable information for you guys to have, whether it's being a home buyer, a home owner, a home seller, anywhere in between. We're here as resources for y'all. So please reach out. Don't forget to follow all the social media. My tag is at @Waters Realtor to keep up with the show as we continue to grow and get some more equipment and do some cool stuff. So thanks again, you guys, for being here.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Big thanks to WQEE 99.1 FM for giving us this platform to share this information with you guys. So look forward to seeing you next week. Thanks again so much for tuning in, and look forward to the future.